So a while back, I was in a local commercial gym, and I was doing a few sets on bench. And right in the center of the gym is about 4 or 5 benches lined up horizontally. And there's a group of gentlemen next to me who are warming up. They start with the bar and then proceed to add on a pair of 25-pound plates in the bar, so 95 pounds in total. And a woman from across the gym goes up to them and wants to work in with them on bench. I think you guys can see where this is going. Unfortunately, we are going there. It's not a Family Guy skit, by the way. I wish it was. But she unracks the weight of 95 pounds and it comes collapsing on top of her. And when she gets up, she's laughing in a way that's almost more so to hide embarrassment because no one else was laughing. But then she makes this comment of, why was that so easy for you guys? Why can't I do that so easily? Implying that she should be able to compete with these men. Asking this question of, if you can do it, why can't I do it just as easily, or why can't I do it better? Now, when it comes to the gym, I don't want to get off topic here because it's not a video about the gym per se, but when it comes to the gym, you have foundational lifts. You have the bench press, you have the squat, the leg press, the lat pull down, you have the barbell curl. You have these foundational building blocks, right? When it comes to relationships, if you do not have those foundations and building blocks, respect, it'll fall apart. Things are going to fall apart. And when you see women wanting to compete with men, thinking that equates to strength or something like that, things are never going to work. They're never going to work at all. Women should not be competing with men, not just in the gym, in marriage, in relationships, further than the gym. I see this a lot when it comes to women who have attended university, when it comes to women who have higher income perhaps, and have gotten into good careers, where they will even be in marriages in some cases and have it their goal to walk all over the man, to disrespect them, to be the mother, the father, and the breadwinner all at the same time, which really shows you they are married to their own egos. They're in love with their own ego. They're not in love with the family or have the best interest of the family, certainly not the father. But even if there's kids in the family, they are not having the best interest of them. And I see a lot of older women acting like that. And when it comes to things like this, they will turn down good men. And when I grew up, I was watching movies like Toy Story and Monsters, Inc. They probably grew up watching The Land Before Time, perhaps even the in real life version, by the way. But you have a lot of these older women who will constantly try to convince men, the world, that they're happy acting like this in their relationships when they're not. They're absolutely not. You have a lot of women who think they can have all these do-overs and waste this guy's time, waste that guy's time, talk to multiple men at the same time. Well, if this marriage fails, I divorce him, I'll have someone else to replace. When it comes to this, time goes fast. Time flies. We all know that. I mean, I remember a time where there were $60 video games with no DLC, no updates. So they had to release a finished product. There were no do-overs. Once it was out there on the shelves, that was it. Of course, things have changed nowadays. But I think a lot of women, modern women especially, do not understand that concept. That with things like this, you can't just replace and this and that and do over and do over and do over. That is not how it works. And us as men are seeing that. They're seeing the lack of prospect to lead anywhere. They're seeing the lack of commitment or seriousness. And they're wanting nothing to do with it. Wanting absolutely nothing to do with it. And I had come across something on social media, and the few times that I open it, which ultimately should be not at all, but I saw a video of a woman who was in her mid-30s, and she was celebrating her career and stuff like that. And she had said something along the lines of, with men, complaining about men, and said that there was a guy who she was talking to in her 20s and that he ghosted her supposedly. And she said the reason was, which is a real kicker, she said the reason was that they were at a party or some kind of social setting. I can't recall if it was a party or not. But that She was dancing with another guy and he left and never talked to her again. And she was trying to make it seem like it wasn't a big deal because they weren't in a relationship, so-called, even though they were talking all the time and hanging out together. And this is the problem. The lack of respect and understanding for implications. You have this term friend zone, which I think the term friend is thrown around way too casually, by the way. Someone who leads you on and wastes your time is not your friend. I wouldn't call that being in the friend zone. I call that someone you should not be wasting your time with in the first place. And of course I could go further on this, because even friendships among men, I mean, I don't want to get off topic here, but my point being is the term friend is thrown around way too casually, far too casually. And I want to say something else too, because I see all these older women who are trying to convince us that they're happy. Meanwhile, they need to say it to the entire world. If they were really happy, they wouldn't need to flaunt it. They wouldn't need to flaunt any of this stuff. They wouldn't need a $3,000 handbag. They wouldn't need anything. They would be at peace. But real happiness for a woman is being a mother. That is the truth. Real happiness for a woman is being a mother. It is masking that to say that all these games and antics are happiness. I mean, I see husbands who are dealing with humiliation, who are dealing with things in a public setting even, with the woman trying to take the role of the father, thinking that that is strength, that is weakness. Giving in to these kinds of temptations is weakness. Absolutely. And I had a friend of mine who I've mentioned a couple times previously, named Zach, who very sadly passed away at the age of 30. He left behind a wife and a daughter, and I saw them at the memorial, and the profound long-term effects losing that father had. It was clear as day. It's so important to have a father in the household with the role of a father. When I see women wanting to compete with men and then asking these questions of why can't I do that, or rather they think to themselves they should be able to do things better than men, it tells you right there their intentions are totally in the wrong. And I'll put up front, I'm going to say this right now, more husbands need to be respected. Men getting caught off guard with antics and disrespect, I mean, I could only imagine what it's like being in the shoes of a man like that, having to deal with that kind of stuff. But I think looking at it from the outside, it's pretty easy to think, why is that man not putting the foot down, right? Which, of course, I think they should not tolerate the disrespect. But I would imagine that if you are a father or a husband and you have a wife or a woman you've been with long term trying to humiliate you, trying to do things in public, catching you off guard, it must feel like betrayal. But you're probably thinking to yourself, why would she do something like that? I'm here as a protector. I'm here as a provider. I've been loyal, and she's disrespecting me. That is how backwards and out of hand things have gone. Truly. You have women who think that they can walk all over men, they can disrespect men. You have this idea of competition and asking questions, not only just asking questions of why can't I do what a man can do, but asking questions of why are men not approaching women anymore? Why are men opting out? It's pretty clear to see why. It's clear as day, really. And I think any man with self-respect is going to look at these kind of things and play no part in it. They're going to play no part in it. When it comes to things like divorce even, you hear a lot of this line of losing half your stuff, but it's more like losing 100% of your stuff. It's much more than half. Custody battles and doing things really out of spite. And that comes down to this idea of competing with men. That's what it comes down to. Because they think that they can replace the man. You have a lot of women who fall into this mindset and they will go to court to get full custody of their kid because they think they can take the place of the father. They think they can be the provider, which they make the mistake of thinking being a provider is just financially. And ultimately, what it has led to is an influx of unhappy women. That is what it's led to. That is what it is going to continue leading to. And I want to end the video on a quick kind of story or point I want to make, where I thought to myself, why are there times where I just want to go on late night drives, even sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, which I know is probably not the smartest place to go out depending on the area, but why do us as men appreciate what some people might see as isolation? And what's really become clear to me is it's about peace and solitude, and about a time where, or an environment where there's not so much pressure 24/7. There's not someone trying to compete with us nonstop. There's not people trying to show off and people glued to their phones 24/7, because of course less people being out, but the only people out that time, right? People who work late night shifts, perhaps they're grocery store clerks or people stocking the shelves. And there's almost this feeling of humility that I don't see enough nowadays. I don't. And when it comes to modern women, when it comes to dating, I don't see any form of humility. I see wanting to compete with men, wanting to walk all over men, wanting to do things that are totally counterproductive to any form of a relationship or anything that's going to lead to any long-term relationship. Even worse, by the way, marriages and situations where there are families involved, where a lot of men have unfortunately not had self-respect and gotten married to women like that, or perhaps even unknowingly. And this is again why I don't just want to point the finger at the men and act like there was something wrong with them, because it probably wasn't like that in the beginning. Perhaps the mask slips later on. But I imagine it is not so easy to walk away, to go your own way, to opt out once you are in a marriage, right? Especially if there's a kid involved. It's not like a friend or something like that. It's almost kind of like workplace drama, where you can't just leave it in case, of course, there's, depending on the job. But let's say, for sake of argument, someone works and they need the money and there's no other job opportunity at the moment for them, where they're going to have to put up with the drama and things on a daily basis, which personally for me, I wouldn't do. I know that maybe is easy to say for some people, but I would not do that, because there are few things that I would put above my peace and solitude. And a relationship, definitely not something. But when it comes to men who are married, who are getting disrespect, I talked about it a while back, or I think it was a few videos ago, a gentleman in an elevator who got hit on the arm by his wife in front of a group of around 5 people. You think why men put up with that, but it's not so easy to just walk away. Things like divorce, like I mentioned, custody battles, perhaps, if that's applicable. It's a shame. It's a shame. I think the root cause of this, the root problem of this, is this whole idea of competition. Let me say something too. I'm not saying all men are perfect and all men are good men, but there are far more good men that are willing to commit to something than I see women out there. Certainly when it comes to those under the age of 40, I would say. Of course, times were never perfect, but what's going on now is totally backwards. And I had a comment, who I'd seen a comment rather, of a woman who was saying something along the lines of, what is even the purpose of bringing up things like this? And this could apply to other channels too, but I believe the comment was on another channel, I might say. And I'm thinking to myself, men having discernment is not going to be the problem. That is not the problem. The problem is the behavior. If you think a man is walking away now hearing stuff like this, you wait till they don't have discernment. They don't have standards. If they get with a woman who disrespects them, who wants to compete with them, walk all over them, and it leads to divorce, something like that, then they'll really have a reason to walk away. Saving men years, even decades of their lives and stuff like that should be promoted. But I see a lot of that from women who probably fit the mold of what a lot of men are talking about. Those that want to compete with men. Those that are marrying their own ego rather than investing in a healthy family. That's what it is. Because there's no other reason to think there is something wrong with that. Truly. And just like when I go out late at night and go on drives, really, it is for my own peace and solitude. And you're going to see a lot of men walk away because of those things. I have no problems with being around people. I'm out during the day too, but there are some times where I think men, rather, we need to just decompress, right? Just have the weight lifted off our chest, which, I guess in our case we could do if it's 95 pounds, hopefully. I'm not judging anyone. We all start somewhere if not. But that's what I see a lot now. And as always, guys, I appreciate you for viewing the video. Hope you guys have a good one. Thank you.